The following show and its content are the responsibility of the show's producers and participants.
Information related in this program is not meant to substitute medical recommendations. Before starting a treatment program, you should consult your physician.
T-minus 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Ignition. Liftoff.
That's right. Welcome to the Couch Live here at WPSN99.com. Hello, everybody, from here in beautiful New Smyrna Beach, Florida. It's a beautiful Friday, as always. It feels like it's been at least a month since we've joined you here at WPSN99.com with the Couch Live, that is. So welcome back. We've had some vacations and stuff. I am the street-certified dope Dr. Louis Delgado, along with my partner right here, Trinity Phillips, the Dharma Guy.
Hey, what is up?
You know, in 2019, when you say partner, it always just means something different. So, you know, do you feel that when you say partner, do you now equate it with something else?
Well, when I hear it, maybe not when I say it because I know my intent, I guess.
Yeah.
But whenever I hear somebody say my partner, I immediately think gay.
Me too. So I think I'm gonna have to find another thing.
Well,
I
you're
guess.
not ready to come out. I thought you were
I'm
going to tell people about it.
No, I'm gonna stay in the closet.
Okay.
I like the closet. It's my safe zone. It's my little safe place.
That's not what we talked about, but whatever.
Brother, you know, I'm just not ready for you like that. You know what I mean? If you just looked a little bit different, I would be a little bit more proud. Yeah, just a little bit.
Just a little bit.
You know, I told you.
Smooth the beard away a little.
I told you to smooth it out a little bit. I just told you. At least use some pomade or something.
It's too rough. Oh, God.
Anyway. Welcome, everybody, to the Couch Live. We are a show in our 20th year. The Couch Live in our 20th year.
All right, yay.
Our 20th year here with you, talking about addictions. Man, look, I saw some video clips of me just 10 years ago, my 40th birthday. I'm about to turn 50 in October.
I want to acknowledge some pictures that I've seen recently that you posted. Bro, a mullet? Like, really? You had a mullet, dude.
Everybody had a mullet.
No, not every. I never had a mullet. I had a rat tail.
You were like 5.
I had a rat tail.
You were 5.
A mullet.
A mullet was never in style when you were a kid.
Yeah, I remember.
No, you were like 5.
Bill Ray Cyrus.
He wore it when he was already out of style.
Okay. Well,
yeah, no.
I think you should bring it back, bro.
No, and it wasn't. It wasn't even called a mullet back then. As a matter of fact, I wore it when it wasn't even called a. It wasn't even a mullet. It was the 70s and 80s, and that's when people wore stuff like that.
I want you to bring it back.
If you wore it in the 90s, you were a little late.
I want you to bring it back.
No.
I want to see you rocking a mullet this time next month.
Man, it's just not the thing. It's just no, man. In the 80s and right in the early 90s, the first couple of years in the 90s. But as soon as Billy Ray Cyrus wore it and got famous with "Achy Break Your Heart," that's when everybody had to cut it off. he was kind of the end of it.
Business in the front, party in the back, baby.
It wasn't even. Matter of fact, that wasn't even a comment when it was in. Awesome. By the time that came in as a statement, it was over.
You got the whole Joe Dirt thing going
on. Yeah, Joe Dirt, it was already over.
Awesome.
Yeah, exactly. But if you notice, Joe Dirt was set up in the 80s.
Yeah, well, and Joe Dirt was meant to be a mock anyways.
Yeah, because back in the 80s,
funny movie, by the way.
Those cars were in. All those kind of hot rod cars, the Novas, the Chevy Camaros. Sure. Yeah.
They're making a comeback, though.
It was but I'm not going to do the mullet thing. It was just long hair. It just meant long hair, but you know, it was just different. Sure. But anyway, we are a show that focuses on addiction and recovery, and sometimes, obviously, side issues that get brought up.
That's right.
So that's what just happened with the Dharma Guy. Yeah. So before we get started, you want to tell everybody about our sponsors who allow us to go on for an hour straight through without having to do any commercial interruptions, so we can get right into the topic. We're going to be talking about temporary fixes today, so hold on. Temporary fixes. We all have some sort of temporary fix we do. Some of us have had some very destructive temporary fixes. We'll get to those in just a second, but Trinity's going to tell us about our sponsors real quick.
I'm so glad you asked, because we have some great sponsors.
Yeah.
The first of which is Retreat Behavioral Health. Retreat Behavioral Health and Journey Pure. Both fantastic facilities that we send people to. Matter of fact, right before we went on air, we were sending another person to one of the Journey Pure facilities.
They're trying to call us during the show. Don't you know we're on the air
exactly.
that you sponsor?
And then we have, of course, Orange County Drug Free Coalition, which has supported the show for 20 years.
20 years.
And then we have the Now Matters More Foundation.
That's right.
Which, of course, he is the founder. I'm the president, and he's got the lovely shirt on today.
Yeah, man.
You can read more about us and donate at nowmattersmore.org.
That's right.
Or you can call 1-833-NOW-MATTERS, and we will do our best to help you get situated. And then last but not least, we have our newest sponsor is Sport Subaru South.
Yeah,
and they're doing something really cool, actually. And it's very, very much involved, actually, because I know the application we had to fill out and
oh, my God.
Like, it's a major
deal. It's a whole deal.
So Sport Super South, what they're doing is they got a program called Share the Love event, and it's coming up from November 15th to December 31st.
Right.
And every single time you buy a car through them, the local dealership is going to donate $250, and then Subaru as a whole is going to match that. So it'll be $500 per car purchased at Sport Subaru South.
That's pretty damn cool right there.
Yeah, I think that's awesome, actually. And from what my understanding is, it's actually a pretty good sum every year that they do this, that we can help save a lot of lives with that. So I'm very very excited about that.
Right.
And then the other thing I do want to mention that we've kind of neglected to mention a few times, we did do some shows on CBD oil.
Yeah.
And we went over the results and everything else. You can find all that on youtube.com/thecouchlive.
Right.
Unless you're watching this via YouTube, then just scroll up and find the show there. But we did partner up with a company that we were using, and you can get their CBD oil through NowMattersMoreCBD.com. And I think 45% of his proceeds goes to Now Matters More.
It's a beautiful thing. There's been people that have purchased by going to NowMattersMoreCBD.com that it's already it actually works.
Yeah, we're already getting checks.
Right.
Which is awesome.
So they are considered a sponsor right now. Canaroo. Canaroo. You got to mention Canaroo. And by the way, because this is a show that focuses on addiction and recovery, you're going to go to NowMattersMoreCBD.com and you're going to see some of the products that Canaroo offers are full spectrum, meaning they have THC in them. Those aren't the ones that we took, and those aren't the ones that we recommend for anyone that's already suffering some sort of mental health or substance abuse issue. Try the other ones without it, and you will know the difference between those that have it and those that don't. Go ahead and read the ingredients, and you'll see. But we did the THC-free ones.
We did?
Yeah.
Very well said, sir.
And I love the flavors. But anyway, so I didn't get the results that I was looking for, but Trinity, he got all the great results. So it might work for you. Some things don't work for everybody. It's just the way it is. But anyway, I'm going to try again. I'm gonna double dose it, man.
I like it.
I think that's what it is. When you're
more, baby. Take me.
That's my answer to everything.
Just more. Take more. When a little doesn't work, take more.
Listen, my people understand. My people understand. When it's something you kind of want to do, and it doesn't work, do more.
Sure.
It's not don't do it.
Solid logic. I like it.
It's the logic that
I like it.
that people like me do.
I like it. Right. Which leads us to today's topic, by the way.
Temporary fixes. So temporary fixes. So to preface everything, to set up everything, we all have temporary fixes. We all have something that we've done or do that for the moment it works. For the moment it resolves some sort of itch, some sort of desire, some sort of getting us away from however we're feeling. We want a temporary escape. We want a temporary numbing. We want some temporary rest or relaxation. You kind of know what to do. Unfortunately, some of us have some biological or chemical things that go on with some of the things that we do, and we take it. We have issues with it, and we're going to get more into that. Sure. We're going to talk about tolerance a little bit. We're going to talk about abuse a little bit. But first, let's just talk about what a temporary fix is and why we're talking about it today. Dharma Guy.
Well, see, I would argue, getting into it, because I've had this discussion. I have children, I have friends, we've done groups and stuff.
Yeah.
So we've had these discussions quite a lot with numerous different people. And one of the arguments I always try to say is it's not a temporary fix. I call it like a temporary distraction because it didn't really fix anything. The idea of fixing it means that it's no longer an issue. It's gone, problem solved.
No.
You fixed it.
Right.
You didn't really fix it though. You kind of just displaced it. Like you're distracted for a
That's
temporary.
very true. Now you're being very grammatically correct.
Well, I think it's important because
in Doponics world, fix means
sure
it worked for the second.
Yeah, but I think that's part of the problem is we convince ourselves that it did fix it.
Right.
But it didn't. And in most cases, it actually made it worse.
Well, you brought up mullet, right?
I did.
Well,
not the grain either, the haircut.
So I instantly think about temporary fix, like, you don't really see it anymore, but you used to see people that put coat hangers on mufflers.
The what?
The mufflers that would hang low. You'd see some people would put the coat hangers to hold the muffler. Yeah. That's a temporary fix. Or jerry rig is like a bad term that a lot of people have used.
I know a couple other terms, but I won't use them.
Yeah. There's a lot of little terms that people have used, but like the duct tape.
Yes, duct tape fixes everything.
Yeah, that kind of thing. So, but you're saying to not use the word fix because.
Well, I just think that
it gives the wrong impression to the brain.
Let's just be honest.
Right.
Like, I think if you convince yourself that it fixes, then it's easier to follow that line of thinking and convince yourself that it's fixing it. I think if you're honest to yourself, like I'm not really fixing anything with this. I'm just postponing or distracting myself. It's like, something shiny. And so I think that part of the problem is we think that it fixes it, and then we don't realize that, like I said earlier, oftentimes it makes it worse because it creates new problems sometimes.
Right.
Like I know a lot of the kids these days, youth, if you will, I think that
I saw a hand raised behind you.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah.
But I know that, hopefully not that young, but I know a lot of the teenagers, right? Because we've done the paid program type stuff. We've interacted with other people. We've talked to different ones, and the thing that I know that is kind of like the big pink elephant in the room these days, right? Is marijuana. Right. That is the big pink elephant in the room that everybody's like, it's just sitting there, and the problem is. A lot of us, I think it's a difficult discussion, especially when it comes to your kids, because a lot of us aren't necessarily anti-marijuana.
Right.
However, we're also not, those of us who know about it, aren't so pro-marijuana for the wrong reasons, I should say.
Right.
If you're an adult and it's legal in your state and you're able to maintain that balance in your life and it's just something you want to kick back every now and then and do it, we're not talking to you. You know what I mean? You do your thing. It's obviously working.
I never really meet you.
Yeah. But what we're talking about is the person who's abusing the marijuana and thinking that it's like their coping skill, like they're going to it as in like, hey, this is making me feel good at the moment,
right?
And that's the person we're talking to, and that's the person I'm saying no, it's not. Like you think it's making you feel good,
right?
But then if you look in your life, if it's causing you to miss certain things, if it's causing you to make irresponsible decisions, if you're choosing that over some of your responsibilities that helps you progress in life, it's creating more of an issue for you.
But I think you're already going a little deep.
Sure.
And here's why. I think just being insightful in the first place and knowing how something's affecting you, I think to me that's always the problem.
I agree.
Because
we're not honest.
To relate something to something else. Like, for instance, if I eat Fruit Loops right now, and then I have an upset stomach in 30 minutes.
It's probably the Fruit Loops that did it.
I'm very likely going to say, wow, that didn't that didn't feel good, or that caused this.
One would hope, anyway.
Right. If you have a carbonated beverage and get heartburn within the next 15, 20 minutes, you're going to say, that gave me heartburn.
Hopefully.
With some things that you do, we tend to ignore the connection. We blame other things. And so when our life is already upset in its balance a little bit, and we're already struggling with, like, whether it be certain individuals, whether it be home, whether it be job, whether it be ourselves, and then we take this temporary fix thing, and we come off of it, we come down, and then the problem is greater, we don't seem to connect it to the fix. In other words, we look at the fix like, wow, while I was under the influence of what I did, whether it be a video game, whether it be alcohol or something I drank, whether it be something I smoked, snorted, whatever, injected, I'm going to still look at that as a solution, because every time I come down is when I'm dealing with you or this situation. Then I'm not going to relate that it got worse because of the using of anything. I'm going to relate it got worse because you are just an impossible situation, and I just need to find a way away from you.
Well,
do you know what I mean?
Well, the other direction I see this in as well, I mean, I know I originally said marijuana, but there's also, like I see it with my fitness clients even. A lot of them, like, they will be upset and frustrated and disappointed that they can't facilitate any sort of weight loss in their life.
Right.
But they won't stay on any sort of, like, consistent dietary program.
Right.
They'll gorge on, like, an entire pizza, or they'll call Uber Eats to come over.
Right.
And they know that that's not conducive to their goals, but they'll still do it anyways. Because in that exact moment, they're not thinking long term. They're thinking immediate right now.
Well, it's hard to believe that little bag of chips is going to really upset my whole diet.
Sure.
I mean, it is.
And that little bag of chips probably wouldn't. But when it's that little bag of chips, then typically leads to, oh, well, I've already done this, this, and this, so why not eat this then? And or it's usually not the little bag of chips. It's usually the entire bag of chips, or it's
Have you been in my bedroom? Have you been in my house?
No, but I mean that's just how it goes, right? Like I've never known. That's the problem when it comes to like weight loss.
Right.
It's not just a little bag of chips. It never is.
Right.
It's what that little bag of chips leads to.
The quality of your problems is so different. Back in the day, you'd wake up and there'd be like remnants of your partying, like in your house, and you look around and go, oh man, bottles, the ashes and just your swag, your stuff, right? And you got to put it away before anybody comes over or whatever. Well, when I woke up this morning, so before I leave, my nightstand has the empty bag of Lay's potato chips, the Tabasco bottle. Well, the Tabasco bottle stays
dripping down the side. It's a long night, man.
I'm very neat with it. But it stays right on my nightstand. Sure. I mean, not many people have a Tabasco sauce bottle that stays on their nightstand.
How do you not have heartburn all the time?
It doesn't give me heartburn anymore.
It's crazy
because there's no relation.
Nope. You've torn such a hole that it doesn't heartburn anymore. It's going straight to you. Like
I had ulcers. I had 3 of them at 17 or 18, 19 around that time frame, and like they're all gone. I quit for such a long time, but I went back to it because I'm a horrible human being. No, so what I'm saying is the feeling that I get when I look at it in the morning, is not as dramatic. But it's there.
There's regret.
Oh yeah, I look at it and
what did I do?
Because I remember when I was throwing it away, going, all right, God, I can't do this as often as I do it. Like I've been on vacation, so I've been cheating a lot, and I'm like, I can't be doing this. But I don't relate it to my lack of energy. I don't relate it to my lack of wanting to get started. But it's related to all that, because when I'm off routine and when I'm dangling Dixie for your buy one get one free, is because I made a plan in my head that says I'll only eat Lay's when it's buy one get one free.
And they have it every week now.
They have it all the time.
Yeah,
all the time.
They heard you say that.
God, man.
I get it, but the other thing too is it's so we're so impulsive by nature. I think as a species that it's hard to convince that person, and it's hard to convince yourself that the end result of making better choices feels so much better than that momentary moment.
Just takes longer, Trinity.
It does take longer.
The issue is it takes so damn long. You know what I mean?
Actually, you know what? I'm gonna argue it doesn't.
Yeah, it does.
I'm gonna say it doesn't.
Well, you'll make your argument in a second, but let me make mine first. Look. I have 30 years clean right now, right? It took a long time to feel comfortable in this skin. It took a long time to feel comfortable in being a guy that doesn't get high. You know what I mean? I mean, it's how I identified myself. It's how I viewed myself. It's how I related to myself. It's how I identified my relationship with the world. I didn't even know how to have normal conversations without somehow. Well, look what I do for a living. I still apparently don't know how to have a life where I'm not talking about getting high or drugs or alcohol, because it seems it's so into who I am. I started so damn young, Trinity. 9 years old, I started using something. And before that, one could make an argument that even before that, I started doing something that was somehow allowing me to escape. And I have my reasons. And, you're not doing therapy on me right now, so you don't need to know. But the point is that I had that stuff. Right? So these things that used to take place, and then I would use them, and then it became from something that was a solution, a temporary solution. It wasn't, like you said, it wasn't really a fix. It wasn't really a solution, to become very habitual, to then some of the things by nature and by genetics together, because by nature and genetics put together, nature versus nurture, and when nature and nurture are working against you,
you're screwed.
Yeah. So I did a lot more, but the relationship with it was so tight. It was so hard to let go of that relationship. So then on the clean side, on the non-using side, it's like you're left with, okay, now what are my coping skills? All right, so when I'm get frustrated, what do you do?
Right.
Like if I can't hit you when I'm frustrated with you, what the hell am I supposed to do?
Sure.
Like, you know what I mean? Like because you're used to being able to stop somebody from doing something. I'm used to being able to stop myself from feeling a certain emotion or stop someone else. Well, now you're like, oh my God, that powerless world, the word in your head, there's a little piece, a little red midget in my head that goes, you're not completely powerless. You can really slap this person right now. Or you could really just right now. And so it's hard to believe that, no, those things are temporary. And let me tell you something, the things that are sustainable and long-term are much better to feed than the short-term solutions or fixes, because they're not really solutions and fixes. It's just real hard to get there. So what do you mean that you don't think it's harder?
I didn't say it wasn't hard. I just said it doesn't take that long.
Oh, it doesn't take that long. Well, explain that.
Because to me, like, not to get all philosophical here, I guess, or spiritual, but...
the whole world is spiritual. Go there. Watch.
Sure. But I guess what I'm saying is, like, perfect example. When I decided, I don't know how many years ago, that I was going to try to be vegan for a while.
Yeah.
Right? A lot of people said, like, oh, it's so hard, or this... It really wasn't, because all I did was use my mindset. My mindset, instead of was, I can't have those things, is I don't want them. And it wasn't that hard. Like, the other day, you and I were having a conversation. We were talking about marriage, right? Yeah. And I asked you what it was that caused all these people getting into marriage for the first time to not understand how difficult it was, right? And you had probably the best answer, I think, that I've ever heard. And it was dead on, and I think it applies here. And your answer was, you've been doing it so long, and it's such a part of your routine and part of your daily life now, that you don't even realize it's not even really that hard. It's just part of what you do now. Mm-hmm. Right? And so to me, that's what I'm saying is the getting that mindset takes a second. Like, you can say to yourself, this is my mindset from now on. Granted, it's hard and difficult, but it can happen immediately. Now, it takes a while to have the skill set to maintain that consistently, but I would argue that none of us are perfect. But what I'm saying is, if you want to change tomorrow, you can change tomorrow.
But you can change right now.
Exactly.
But still, Trinity, I mean, it's
time, it can happen immediately.
Well, I mean,
but it's hard.
It's
definitely hard.
The initial push has to happen at some point.
Yeah.
Or else we perish. We lose to it, right?
Yeah.
It gets us. First of all, a lot of us are competitive. So bullshit if it's going to get me, kind of thing. You know what I mean? I was stubborn enough to get clean. Yeah. And what I tell people is, use that same stubbornness that you use with your family, that you use with everyone in your life. There's a level of stubbornness that using addicts exhibit and have.
That's how I found my spirituality.
That's the stubbornness you got to use to this use. I'm not going to do it. A huevo lo voy a hacer. No voy a usar nada.
I said that exact same thing.
Yeah, you said it just like that.
Exactly. Were you there?
Yeah, exactly. I was in your house. Nothing. And so I took that stubbornness and I used it. But it wasn't instinctual yet. And this is why I call it instinctual sobriety is what I have. You practice enough till it becomes very instinctual. That's why you hear me related to boxers. Like, boxing is one of my favorite sports. There's my little Mexico glove. Mexico beat United States for the Gold Cup, and congratulations to the women in the World Cup. But you see on this side, the Mexican guitar there. So I'm a Mexican Puerto Rican, I'm a Mexican Puerto Rican American, American overall. That's my home, right? So, but that competitive nature that you want to beat something. I know that in order to be a good boxer, you practice a lot, right? So it's instinctual. You come out of the corner. You don't hear what your corner is saying anymore. Your corner could be saying, hit him with an uppercut, hit him with You think I hear you? Man, you know what I hear? Bell, beep. My ears are ringing because the guy just knocked me in the face. So I'm pure instinct at the moment, right?
Right.
So you're doing pure instinct. But if you train properly, then you're hoping that those instincts push you through.
Sure.
It's just like recovery. You're out there, you're sponsoring people telling you, hey, man, do this, go to a meeting, pray about it, do this step, get with it. You go, yeah. Hang up and you don't do any of it. Because if it's not instinctual yet, you're not going to do it.
Right.
So the point is that you've got to know that these little temporary things, like Trinity said, they're not fixes. They're actually very much a distraction. Yeah. Like you said, they're very much not even really a Band-Aid because you're still bleeding while it's happening. Yeah, you just don't see the blood.
You just looked over here.
Yeah, you're the one not seeing the blood.
Yeah.
It's not even reality because your whole world is still crumbling while you're intoxicated or while you're uninvolved in your life. So like you said, I mean, it's not really a fix, not even temporary. You're outside of reality for a brief moment, but you always got to come back. You always got to come down. It's basic math, right? Basic science. What goes up must come down. So if I'm going to get high, guess what?
Yeah.
I'm going to crash.
But for me, it starts with a mindset. Like it starts with, I'm going to do this.
But your mind is hijacked, Trinity.
Of course.
It's hijacked.
But I'm not necessarily, referring to only those who
so let's talk about
let's
talk to the prior addicts, the ones that aren't addicts yet, the ones that are not even fully abusing something yet. Maybe they're just habitual, like kids, like young people.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of who I'm talking to, that individual that is in the process right now, because I think that's a difficult conversation for people to have.
Oh man,
because I've got kids, you've got kids. Right. We've been in groups with people before who maybe are just starting their journey to addiction or whatever. And they're in the midst of it. And to me, I think those are some of the hardest people to get.
Yeah.
Because they haven't been doing it for so long where they've already lost their house, they've lost their marriage, they've lost their jobs. For those people, it's easy to talk to because you can just look at all the stuff that you're losing, and even a blind person can see that. But it's the beginning stages where it's still fun, where you think it's still fun. You've convinced yourself that it's working. What are you talking about?
Or like you said earlier, if you're not that person, you go, that's not me.
Yeah. Yeah, and so I think that's the difficult conversation to have. And I think we have, like when Renee's on here and all these other moms and parents that have been on here, I think that, they're always saying they want to know the signs to look out for. Right. We're always telling them when they're not the same or whatever.
Right.
But what they're not asking is, what do I do? Like when I found out that they're not the same person anymore, I think there's a problem. Well, what do I do now? Like, I can't just go put them straight into rehab tomorrow because I have to have a conversation first.
Yeah.
What does that conversation look like? And I think that is probably one of the most difficult conversations you're going to have, because how do you tell somebody who is struggling on a day-to-day basis with anxiety, fear, whatever, the pain, whatever your issue is, that smokes weed, shoots up, drinks, does whatever, that feels good at that moment? Like, it does distract them. In other words, it does work for them. They're not trying to get the long-term fix. They're trying to get the immediate fix. And I'm not going to lie to them. Drugs, alcohol does give you an immediate fix. Like, it does give you an immediate dulling of the senses.
Right. So let's talk about some of those fixes. What are some of the fixes that young people tend to do?
Right now, the number one is going to be weed. That right there is weed, alcohol. I'm seeing a lot of like electronics, like gaming, phones, things of that nature.
Right.
I don't see personally too many young people starting with opiates and things of that nature. Some do, of course, but I think typically the most easiest that they have readily access to, that's the cool thing that you see a lot on Facebook and Instagram and whatnot, is weed, alcohol, and other social media.
I'm going to take it before that. I'm going to take it before that. I'm going to go before that. Even before that, basically, I'm going to take it to isolation. There's a lot of you that, especially younger people, it starts then, where your maybe home life gets a little bit rough, or your stresses are a little bit tough, or maybe it's your school, but your parents ask you about school, so you got to stay away from them because you really don't want to talk about school.
Right.
Whatever it is, you got to isolate. You got to go into your little room or go into your little corner and escape. So you might put your headphones on, and then you learn that music is a great little temporary escape. You might put on your video game, like you said, or go into Instagram, start scrolling, or some sort of social media and start to. But I think that is where you initially start learning. Yeah. At least right now, the generation right now coming up, they have all these things accessible to them where they can just go somewhere else.
Withdraw.
Yeah. They learn to withdraw. They learn to escape. They learn this temporary fix.
Right.
Like, if I'm bored, pick up the phone and scroll.
Yeah.
I mean, doesn't it work temporarily?
Yeah.
So how do we know when something has gone past temporary? That is the hard part is as a parent or as a loved one,
Right.
when you start seeing certain behaviors, like they're not cleaning their room, they're not bathing the way they normally would, they're not taking care of their hygiene, they're not eating properly.
Yeah.
They tend to get their food and they can't eat their food without still being on the phone or being on the video game.
Right.
They're not really out there succeeding searching for a job. And by that, I mean, like, some people are one project a day kind of people. So, like, if I bathe, I'm done for the day. Well, that was hard. Woo, that wore me out. Or I go apply for one job. Woo, man, I went and looked for a job today.
Right.
You know, as long as you did one thing today, you feel like I'm doing it.
I know in my own home, I've started doing that with the little ones that are behind me. Like, you can't really see them at the moment, but I brought the little ones today.
Right.
My daughter, not as much. Like, she's focused. She does get focused on the like the phone or the iPad or something like that.
Right.
But she's easier to moderate. But the boy, because I think the two sisters will sometimes kind of do their own thing, and so he was always kind of left out, or he was, he would be the boy. He would break things, or he would do whatever.
He required more stimulation. Is that what
Yeah, and so once he finally got the PlayStation, he kind of really zeroed in on that.
Yeah.
And so with him, what I've noticed in the house is yes, it's starting now. I'm seeing him, like, he'll not want to eat. He'll be like, oh, I don't want to eat breakfast yet. I'll eat later.
Right.
Or he'll come out to eat breakfast, lunch, dinner, whatever it is, and he'll try to hurry up and just eat it as quickly as he can possibly eat it so he can go back. Or when I take him off of it or we have to go somewhere, he throws fits and he kind of starts to get upset about things. And so for me, when I notice that kind of obsession, I see that as the beginning stages of learning how to cope differently. Right. And so that's why I try to balance it and pull him off of it and try to explain to him why I'm doing it too. Yeah. I don't do it as a punishment. I say, look, dude, I want you to learn how to balance some things. That's great, and it's still going to be there later on, but you have a family, you have these things. And so, I do that kind of stuff. Yeah,
talking about it is not a skill that young people want to do. And then therefore, if you don't practice talking about things as a younger person, it's so much harder to learn talking about it older.
Like you said, it becomes your instinct.
Right.
Your instinct becomes to just run or withdraw.
And so let me give you some examples of what not sustainable. So see if I can, make some sense of this for those of you that may still be just questioning it or arguing it in their mind. So first, you want to escape your family. Your family may be a little too difficult or problematic or stressful for you. So you start going into your room. But then that's not enough because they come into your room or they knock on your door or they don't let you. Maybe they take the door off its hinges. I don't know. I threatened to do that at one point.
I've done that.
So maybe that's an issue. So then you decide to leave home. Let me go out and hang out with my friends because when I hang out with my friends, I don't have to do it with my family. But then you go hang out with your friends, and that's just not high enough. It's just not enough because now you're hanging out. Well, what are you doing while you're out? Well, there's certain activities that you don't have money. You're not an adult. So you realize how limited your things to do out there are when you're limited to resources or transportation or movement. And so what are the things that are going to give you a rush? Because now that subpar feeling is just not enough. Right. So you start doing risky things. So whether it be, talking a certain way. God, I don't get to talk like this when I'm with my family. I got to use curse words now. I can talk about topics. So that's exciting. But then that becomes very normal. So that's not exciting anymore.
Nope.
So now you want to act out on some of those things that you maybe talked about or read about or saw. And so now you start practicing those things, whether it be sexual, whether it be stealing, whether it be vandalism, whether it be drinking, whatever. So now you start doing them. Right. But even that becomes vanilla because as you progress in doing these different things, it becomes too normal. And so that's not enough because you got this internal angst or this internal stuff that still you haven't been dealing with. Remember, you had that issue with your family. Remember, it may have created some insecurities in you or some anxieties in you that are still not dealt with. So it's still there. So once anything you do becomes normalized, guess what happens to that anxiety and that internal stuff? It comes back up to the surface. So now you got to go deeper. Yep. And so in time, you just keep on going deeper and deeper, trying to resolve that because you don't really even know what that is. But it all started initially when you didn't know how to deal with that feeling you were having as a younger person, and your room wasn't the sanctuary anymore. Right. And so you go out and do and do and do, and unfortunately, like I said, everything becomes habitual, everything becomes abused because it becomes normal. Yeah. And normal is not. You don't feel normal. You feel so off balance that you're always looking for something to kind of counterbalance it.
And just to be clear, I guess I feel the need to say this because
Okay.
we've had these conversations,
Okay.
Both professionally and personally with other individuals.
Okay.
And I think that it's a kind of an idea that can be lost on people.
Mm-hmm.
None of those you just said are coping skills.
Right.
Like, that's not a coping skill, just so
Right.
we all know. Like, if you got to come home at the end of the night and unwind from the day and you need your glass of wine,
Yeah.
that's nice. I'm not telling you not to have it, but don't confuse yourself that is a coping skill, because it's not. Like, that's it's a tool that you're using, and it's giving you some immediate relief or whatever. And if it's not a problem, it's not a problem. But don't convince yourself that that's a skill, because it's not.
It may no longer even be a reward.
Correct.
It may have at one time been a reward,
Yeah.
but now you're using it a little bit differently.
Yeah. But I think that that's part of the issue I see sometimes is I'll see somebody saying to their kids,
Right.
you don't have healthy coping skills, as they have to have their glass of wine at the end of the night. It's
Right.
like, well, neither do you.
Right.
Like if you, and so as a parent, I'd say the first thing you got to do, if you're going to try to talk to your kids, the first thing you have to do is make sure you have good coping skills.
Yeah, you got to exhibit.
Because you can't teach unless you have a good understanding yourself.
Right.
But I do think in today's world, a lot of people confuse, like, their vices as
Right.
coping skills, and they're not.
So we're talking about hypocrisy. So
Yeah.
so here's the issue with hypocrisy. With hypocrisy, we tend to point at somebody else and think that because they've done it in their past or because they don't have maybe what they're preaching, we tend to not listen. Here's what I encourage you to do. Hypocrisy is everywhere.
Oh yeah.
Everybody's hypocritical about something. And if I look deep enough and hard enough, I'm going to find the hypocrisy. And young kids study you. Your children study you. They know you better than anybody. You may not think they do because they don't know. They don't regurgitate back to you something that you think they should know. Like you go, where do I work? And they go, I don't know. What do I do for a living? Oh, I don't know. You help people. You know what I mean? They may not know exactly, but they know the things that are important to them.
Oh yeah.
Like what your face looks like when it's getting angry. You know, what your tone is. Yeah, and what you're going to do with that anger. Yeah. They know the things that are important to them.
Yeah.
Where you work and how you do your thing and all that, this is not as important to them, so they don't care less. But hypocrisy is something that I'm going to encourage you to like just move aside. Don't allow hypocrisy to prevent you from learning anything. In other words, when I got into this business of helping people, when I was just a new counselor,
a young pup with a mullet.
Yeah, I probably had a full beard and everything.
I had to throw that in there.
Yeah, well, I did start in 91. So when I got into this business and I was helping people, the people that I learned the most from of how to run a private practice and how to help people were not people that you should learn relationships about. You should, in other words, they weren't mentors for relationships. They weren't mentors for running a successful business. They weren't mentors for, even how to live your life in many ways.
Right.
But I took what I needed from those mentors, like what not to do and what to do, and that is what I chose to do. Because one gift I feel like I have been lucky to have is hypocrisy. I don't care about hypocrisy. I don't care if you are the worst individual and you're absolutely living very differently than what you're telling me to do. If what you're telling me to do is something that I think may be valuable to me, I'm going to pull that from it.
Right.
And I think that's what's important to get, because, for instance, I'm in recovery. I did a lot of drugs, did a lot of alcohol. Right. If my kids would look at me and says, "Well, you can't tell me not to do it. You did it," they're like, "That's why I'm telling you."
Exactly.
You know what I mean? But I see parents crumble at that.
Yeah.
I see a lot of parents just absolutely feel like, "Well, I can't tell my kids not to do it when I did it." No, you absolutely.
Yeah, you
because
can.
you did it doesn't make you not a valuable teacher. It's the opposite.
Raise that bar up quite a bit, please.
Yeah, it means you can fully explain, some things that maybe somebody who's never tried it can explain, because you have some personal experience. So use that personal experience. Don't look at it like a weapon that just blew you away, because kids will use whatever
of course
bothers you, whatever stumbles you.
Of course. Right? Yeah, I mean, no, I couldn't agree more, man. I know for me that's why my spiritual practice, if you will, is important to me, because I want to be able to teach my children how to respond to issues as opposed to react to issues. Right. But I know I can't do that if I'm busy reacting.
Man, and you hit a good one with that word spiritual. So let me tap into that a little bit, because with spiritual, there's a lot of us that have had issues with the church or the organization in which you were raised. I was raised Catholic. Yeah. So And then so it's really easy to go, oh, but look what the preachers did. That one, was that kid.
Yeah,
that
those are
altar
people,
boy.
though.
Yeah. And look at that reverend over there, like riding a Cadillac while everybody else is broke in the church, and cheated on that guy's wife. Listen, I learned a good lesson in all that actually through my mother. Mom, you actually did this. When I watched my mom donate money to the Catholic Church, like the Catholic Church needs money, right?
Yeah,
we all know the Catholic Church has a lot of money. And she donated some money for a golden goblet for the church. So just in your head.
Okay.
She donated money. It was a lot of money for a golden goblet.
Golden goblet.
Because that was very important.
That's what God needs.
Yeah, not a homeless person, not food for anybody. Golden goblet. And my brother gave my mom quite a bit of stir about it.
As I would expect.
My mom had the best answer. She goes, "It's my money. I don't care what they did with it. I did it because it makes me feel good." And man, when she said that,
interesting.
It just resonated in my head. It says, "Wow, who cares what they do? Who cares what they did with the money? Who cares if you donated $1 to this homeless guy and he drank with it? That's irrelevant. You gave because you chose to give.
Right.
It made you feel good,
right.
Regardless of what happened on the other side. And man, it made the whole religious argument in my head resolve.
Interesting.
Because I found myself defending her and going, "Damn it, Mom, you're right. It's your money."
Interesting.
So here's what I would say to that spirituality and religious thing that keeps a lot of people actually from coming home to where they need to be home to, is regardless of what has happened to you, regardless of how you feel about it or how, your neighbor that keeps knocking on your door as soon as they want, they want to sell you something or whatever. Doesn't matter. The point is that you do what is necessary for you to do. Your faith and your feelings towards that is yours and yours alone. You don't have to hold this resentment or attitude about it because certain people you feel represent the entire religion or their entire spiritual outlook, not even their entire philosophy. Yeah. They just represent themselves.
Well, I think that's a hard lesson. I think that being the fact that I am the Dharma guy, and usually when I go to places, I am speaking of spirituality.
Right.
Yeah, it ruffles so many feathers because of that.
Yeah.
So many people immediately have like a response to it.
Right.
Before they've even heard anything, they automatically have some sort of an emotional response, and it's sad.
Yeah.
Because whatever your experience was in the past was just that. It was an experience. It's not the entire thing.
Well, it's like if your name was, Rabbi Jakinowitz, and then you're speaking, and the person in the audience is not Jewish. Of course, they're going to think, the rabbi's going to go up there. You know. Like they don't want to hear it.
Yeah.
Unless they actually put value on rabbis.
Yeah, and it's actually kind of disheartening though that the word spirituality has got such a bad rap over the years. Something that's so important has been around for thousands of years and helped millions and millions of people every day, and still does. Has such a bad. It's like such a dirty word for so many people. And the sad part is, I do believe that is at least an important component to whatever solutions might be out there for people.
I think it's absolutely vital. And I think if you're out there and that word actually bothers you, if the word religion bothers you or spirituality bothers you, it's all you. Yeah. That's your resentments. That's your pain.
And that is the fix, by the way.
Yeah.
A legitimate fix.
Oh, absolutely.
Like, that's not a temporary fix.
No. I think that if you take issue with the word spirituality and all things that it means to you, however you define it in your head, you're holding on to some sort of resentment or some sort of judgment that is getting in your way. Don't judge others or judge the whole ideology because of your pain, because something that happened to you or didn't work for you at the moment. But it's hard to look at somebody like our good friend Darryl Strawberry is a good example. Yeah. To look at somebody like Darryl Strawberry, who at one time was all over the news, first of all, for all these great achievements in baseball, right? Then he's on the news all the time for all his use and his debauchery, right?
Yeah.
And then now that he's a man of faith, speaks all over the world.
He's always somewhere, man.
But yet there's no ESPN coverage now.
No.
There's no TMZ coverage for him now.
No.
In other words, when he was doing what you wanted him to do, or he was doing things that were exciting to you to watch, you tuned in. You cared about it. You bought it. You want to know what's going on with Darryl now. But as soon as he's not doing that and he's doing something godly or spiritual, zero coverage.
Well, the other thing,
and that is where all this stems from. This stems from there's organizations. And, you could say what comes first, the chicken or the egg.
Right.
But coming from that Hollywood area at one point in time in my life, that area that promotes a lot of television, a lot of stuff. That area is so full of sickness and sin.
Oh, yeah.
So full of sickness and sin, and thrives on it. Don't think they're only catering to what we want. They can help create what we want.
Right.
And so be very careful, because you keep inputting, you become very habituated to what you want inputted. For instance, Hollywood used a lot of guns, shoot 'em up, and a lot of sexual exploitation of women in movies and television, right?
Yep. Still do.
But then you listen to those actors afterwards, and they talk about
They're very
anti-gun and anti-exploitation of women.
Yes.
Makes no damn sense. Hypocrisy. So the point is that you got to take the lessons out there, but you got to be putting in the right stuff in your head. These temporary fixes are, like Trinity said, distractions, and you're using them, and whether it be movies, whether it be things that you see in movies, and you're using it, but it's not going to work full time. It's not going to give you what you really need and really want. And probably what you really need is a good scream, a good cry, or a good yell, or you may feel like you just need to give somebody a good ass whooping. I mean, you and I have jokes that, man, the next person we ever fight,
it's gonna be all
they're
right.
going to be in trouble, because you got a lot of pent up stuff, right?
Yeah.
Well, go get an axe and cut wood. It doesn't feel the same though, right?
No,
Trinity?
it does
doesn't. Have you ever tried to do something like that? By the way,
What?
like try to go break something. Like they have those break rooms now.
No,
Like
but
where you can
I
go
wanted
break.
to.
I wanted to. Too.
I wanted to do
But
that.
obviously not enough to go do it.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've broken a lot of stuff in my years, but never somebody else's, like where I paid to do it.
Yeah. I don't know if that'll really work, because it's
don't know
really
either.
that's not the fix.
Well, that printer didn't
It's a
upset
temporary
me.
thing.
You know what
That
I mean?
print- the printer.
It just didn't upset me. Now, if it was my printer that did upset me, yes, it would feel good to hit it.
Yeah.
But no, the other thing that when you were talking made me think of just kind of an interesting anecdote, I guess, and that is, when you were talking about the spirituality,
Yeah.
people will talk about their disdain for religion or spirituality or whatever it may be.
Yeah.
But I would argue that spirituality or that religion never did anything to them. It was people that did it, but the spirituality of the religion itself never did anything to you. And I would argue, if you're in a position where you're doing some of these temporary fixes, I would say you're doing more harm to you than spirituality ever did.
Oh, absolutely.
Spirituality never did anything to you, but you're the one who is doing this, doing that, causing these problems and these issues.
Mm-hmm.
And so, back to your point, you're the problem,
Right.
not spirituality, religion.
Well, and great segue, because who has lied to you more than you?
Exactly.
Who has let yourself down more than you? Who has gotten yourself in trouble more than you? Yet, if somebody else does it just one time,
Yeah.
you're like, oh, that dude, he lied to me. I'll never.
How many times have you
know,
convinced yourself to do this thing,
Right.
knowing damn good and
Right.
well it's going to be bad for you?
Right,
Yeah, you did. You talked
Right.
yourself into it.
right,
It wasn't somebody else.
right. And I'm not saying just attack yourself. Yeah, you'll need to forgive yourself. But what I'm saying is, your brain is so smart, it knows this. And that's where low self-esteem comes from. That's where insecurities come from. That's where self-doubt comes from, because you know that you've done some piece of crap stuff. You know you've done some bad things to yourself. You know you've hurt people. You know you've hurt yourself. So this inability to even access that thought process, to admit that stuff, and then process through it and forgive yourself is exactly what the issue is a lot of times.
Yeah.
And so you have to admit the things that you've done, and then you have to find the solutions, because these things that you're doing are only further damaging you.
Yeah.
Like if you feel like a weak person, and so you get high so you feel strong, all you did is validate that you're a weak person into your brain, to the part that you're not accessing, and it knows, yep, there you are. You are weak. You are stupid. Look what you did. You are a loser. And if you lack that strength, I don't care how much is coming out of your mouth acting like you're a strong person. I don't care how many people physically you can dominate while you're getting high so you feel like a strong person. Your brain knows, and it fears weakness. And therefore, you will overreact. You will over-dominate situations because you feel so damn weak. People that feel very weak come off very strong sometimes, or they disappear. Remember, there's different kinds of people.
Yeah.
Like I always joked, I said, when I'm hurting, I'm not a person that hurts me overtly.
Right.
I hurt myself in the long run, but it's not overtly. Overtly, I'm hurting you. I don't become suicidal. I become homicidal.
Sure.
Like some people want to isolate, some people want to go out there and explode. I'm a bum.
I just posted that the other day. On my
Yeah,
thing.
what'd you
said,
post?
Remember to show your hurt, not your anger.
I think I saw it.
Yeah.
I saw it.
It was my little Trinityism.
Trinityism.
But no, I made sure I typed it here because I didn't want to forget when you were saying it. But the thing that I would say to somebody who's looking at these temporary fixes and convincing themselves that it is a fix and it's gonna be fine, and so what I would say is, one of the things that I used to talk about was like self-talk, things of that nature, and I was saying you got to love yourself, right? And what I would say to people, like a lot of the homework I would give in groups, whatever, for people would be to, talking bad about yourself and all these other things. You would never do that to a loved one. Like, you try to motivate yourself in ways that you would never in a million years motivate another person. And so one of the homework was to tell people to stop doing that. Like, start talking to yourself like you would a loved one as opposed to yourself. And so the same kind of concept. If these temporary fixes are truly working for you, what would you say to that loved one, that little brother, little sister, that the little child, or that person that looks up to and respects you, came to you for advice and told you that they were doing these things? Would you tell them, yeah, it works, keep doing it? Or would you tell them, no, you shouldn't do that, you don't do this? And if you would tell them, no, don't do it, then you need to tell yourself that. Mm-hmm. Like, you got to talk to yourself like you would a loved one. Mm-hmm. And I think that the result might be very, very different. Because I think a lot of us talk to ourselves and convince ourselves in ways, once again, that we would never do to that other person. Like, so we know they're inherently bad, but when it comes to ourselves, we just care a little less. When it comes to the other person, we really want the best for them, and we want to go our way, make sure we give them everything. But to ourselves, we're like, I'm all right, I'll deal with it. No, you're not all right, and you're not going to deal with it. Talk to yourself the same way.
And so in that, another great segue, Trinity, you brought up the best and final point, which is you got to be your best mentor. You got to be your best mentor, because you don't believe other people. You don't, when you're getting high or when you're drinking and stuff like that, no matter how many alcoholics are around you, no matter how many drug addicts are around you, go, that's not me. That's not going to be me.
Yeah.
No matter how many people are losing stuff and breaking down and crumbling and drowning, that's not going to be me. But there's a fear inside your head that you always think, yeah. So here's the deal. Like Trinity said, you go back, think about yourself 5 years before. What would you tell yourself? How would you help yourself? My hero is me at 19. Me at 19 that made such tough decisions. Geographical, chemical, friendship-wise, everything. All my most major decisions I made at 19 years old. And I think, I don't know how that kid did what he did at 19 years old. It was so dramatic. You know what I mean? It was so dramatic and so powerful. But that kid gave me everything.
Sure.
What he did at 19 gave me everything. So since you are not mentorship worthy for this particular person who you are in your life at this moment, then think about finding somebody who is somebody that has something you want, has something that you know you're going to want, in the future. Or that's the future that, you're going to want something that they have in the future. They don't have to have everything perfect. Like, they don't have to have the marriage you want or the job you want. They got to have something you want that you currently don't have that's worth fighting for and worth using them as a mentor for. Find that person. You can call it a sponsor. You can call it a mentor. You can call it anything you want. I don't care. But the point is if you find that person, use that person.
Yeah.
Because that mentorship is that valuable. And if you're not able to be your best mentor right now, then you got to find somebody.
Find somebody successful and do what they do.
Right.
Well, successful in what you want.
Yeah, there was somebody outside the studio, right?
I think they were getting ready to come in the door.
Yeah.
I was like, what?
Yeah, they may need to. I don't know. But we'll be out in a sec.
Yeah. I thought somebody's getting ready to walk in on
Right, I think I know who it is. I think
I know who it is too,
yeah,
actually.
Yeah. So in closing, Trinity, any last words?
Yeah, I just honesty. Be honest with yourself. We can convince ourselves of anything, but you pointed out in the back of your head, you know the truth.
Yeah.
And so be honest. Listen to that voice that's trying to be honest. They don't shut it up.
No.
Don't listen to the bad one. Listen to the good one. And be honest with yourself and realize, are you going against your own value system? You have a value system, what you respect and what you think is the quote unquote right way to do things. And are you yourself going against that? Mm-hmm. And if you are, it's time to rethink things.
Right on. All right. And temporary fixes, like Trinity said, the Dharma Guy said it best. He says they're not really fixes. They're distractions. They're actually hurting you more. unfortunately, some things are a lot more permanent than you think, and sometimes temporary fixes become very permanent problems. And some things you just can't come back from. So, you may think it feels good right now, and you may think that it's working, but if you go to somebody who truly, truly loves you and truly has the best intentions for you, ask them, is it working? Dare enough to ask them, do you think this is a problem? Tell me the truth. Do you think that I need to change something? What is it? And ask somebody that you value, somebody that you've edified, somebody that you feel, I believe this person. And if you don't have that kind of person in your life, that is what's sad. That is what you should seek. That is what you need to find. Because we all have to have somebody in our life that we can go to when we can't see it, when we're absolutely friggin' blind. We just can't see the truth. We all need to have that somebody. And I know to you it's Angel. To me it's Dana. And regardless of other arguments or other conversations, you can't fear that, oh my God, if I ask them, I know what they're going to say. I know what they're going to do. No, you put all that aside, because at the end of the day, you know this person loves me more than anybody.
Yep.
This person has chosen me to live with me until they die, or me with them until I die. So we got lucky to have that. Some of you don't have it. Well, you need to find something like that, whether it be a mom, dad, grandmothers, grandparents are good.
Yeah.
But people that you know are there regardless. Anyway, we're done for today. This has been The Couch Live. Remember to follow us, The Dharma Guy, The Dope Doctor. You can go to YouTube, register, subscribe to the YouTube channel. It's youtube.com/The Couch Live. Follow us on all the social media, and that's it. Right? There's nothing else.
I think that's it.
Nothing else.
Let's find out who our mystery guest is.
All right. Adios, amigos. It's time for a taco. Goodbye.
And that was without even a single drop of rum.
That was awesome.
He really grows on you, doesn't he?